All right, today we're diving into a story where the future of AI smacks right into environmental law. And right in the middle of it all, Elon Musk's AI company xAI, which, as it turns out, just got caught breaking the law. Let's get into it.
I mean, this is a pretty stunning headline, right? A major U.S. regulator, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has just ruled that Elon Musk's AI company acted illegally. And we're not talking about some minor paperwork issue here. Nope. This is all about how they're powering their absolutely enormous AI supercomputers.
So you've got to be asking, how in the world does one of the biggest tech projects on the planet end up on the wrong side of the law? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. This whole story is a wild mix of massive ambition, let's call it a creative legal loophole, and a local community that just wasn't having it. So let's dig in and see how we got here.
All right, first up, Musk's AI ruled illegal. Let's get straight to the verdict from the EPA. What did they actually say, and why does it matter so much?
So here's the breakdown. On Thursday, January 15th, 2026, the EPA dropped the hammer. They found that xAI was illegally using a whole bunch of methane gas turbines for its giant data centers down in Tennessee. The real kicker was this. xAI tried to argue these things were portable generators, but the EPA said nope, not buying it. They ruled that those generators were absolutely not exempt from federal air quality permits. And just like that, a huge loophole the company was using to get power on the cheap and super fast was slammed shut.
Okay, so that brings us to the next big question. Why were they even using these turbines to begin with? It all comes down to what we're calling the Colossus power problem. And to get it, you have to understand that we're not talking about just flipping on a few light switches. We're talking about a mind-boggling amount of energy.
Just look at this number. 150 megawatts. And get this, that's for just one data center, their first one, which they nicknamed Colossus 1. Honestly, it's a number that's kind of hard to even wrap your head around.
So let's try to put that into perspective. We're talking about enough juice to power 100,000 homes for a whole year. All of that electrical firepower is being funneled into one building for one single supercomputer. You can start to see how this incredible, just insatiable hunger for power is driving every single decision they make.
And here's the thing, they needed that power like yesterday. We're in the middle of a full-blown AI arms race here. Back in the summer of 2024, they threw up Colossus 1 in a record-breaking 122 days. I mean, that is just unheard of for a project this massive. Then in 2025, they started on Colossus 2, which is even bigger, 1 million square feet. And just last week, a third supercomputer, Macro Hard R, is already getting started. See, this isn't just building stuff, it's a race, and the ammo they're using is raw power.
So that's the dilemma, right? How do you feed these massive energy monsters almost overnight when the local power grid just can't handle it? Well, xAI thought they found a pretty slick answer, a temporary turbine loophole.
Okay, so check this out. It all hinged on this quirky local county rule, what we're calling the 364-day loophole. Basically, the rule said you could run generators without permits on one condition. The machines couldn't sit in the same spot for more than 364 days straight. So what did xAI do? They basically built a power plant on wheels. They trucked in as many as 35 portable truck-sized gas turbines and just said, hey, these are temporary, no permit needed. Pretty clever, huh?
But here's the thing. This quote-unquote temporary power plant wasn't sitting in the middle of nowhere. It was chugging along 24/7 right next to people's homes. And, people started to notice. And this is where the story really pivots. It goes from being about corporate loopholes to a community fighting back for its own health.
And the location here is absolutely critical. We're talking about a data center that's just a few miles away from historically black neighborhoods in Memphis. You have to understand, these are communities that have for decades already been dealing with more than their fair share of industrial pollution. So for them, this wasn't just some new building. It felt like another company showing up and adding another unacceptable burden.
And this quote from Abre Connor of the NAACP it says it all, really. Our communities, air, water, and land, are not playgrounds for billionaires chasing another buck. I mean, that really captures how people were feeling. They felt like they were just collateral damage in this high-stakes tech race. This was about way more than just noise. It was about something fundamental, the right to breathe clean air. And you know what? Their fears were totally justified. We're not talking about harmless steam here. These methane gas turbines pump dangerous nitrogen oxides straight into the air. And science is really clear on this stuff. Nitrogen oxides are known to cause cancer. They're also linked to things like asthma and a bunch of other nasty upper respiratory diseases. So this fight wasn't about some abstract principle. It was about a very real, very serious health risk. So the community organized. Lawsuits were filed. The EPA stepped in. Which brings us to the big question. What happens now? What was the outcome of this whole fight, and what does it mean for anyone else trying to build these huge AI factories? Well, the EPA came in and they didn't mess around. They closed this loophole, and they closed it for good. Here's how they did it. Step 1. They made it crystal clear that so-called portable or temporary turbines are no longer exempt. You need a permit, period. Step 2. Getting that permit now falls under much stricter federal law, not some local rule. And the impact here is huge. By 2032, this one action is expected to cut nitrogen oxide emissions by 296 tons every single year.
And this quote from Amanda Garcia at the Southern Environmental Law Center just hits the nail on the head. She said, "The ruling makes it clear that companies are not and have never been allowed to build and operate methane gas turbines without a permit." See, what's so important here is that the EPA wasn't really making a new rule. They were just saying, hey everyone, this has always been the law. It sends a really powerful message. There's no shortcut for setting up your own private, unpermitted power plant. I don't care how fast you're trying to build your next big.
And that really brings us full circle to the big, lingering question that this whole saga leaves us with. Look, the case in Memphis might be over, but the problem it exposed? Oh, that's just getting started. Because as AI's appetite for power just keeps growing and growing, we're going to see this conflict pop up again and again. This story is a powerful reminder that there's a real environmental price tag attached to all this amazing progress, and it leaves all of us with a really tough question to answer. Who's going to be the one to pay it?